Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Pearsall to be held today, Tuesday, February 13th. The time is 7 p.m. May I have a roll call, please?
Mary Moore.
Present.
Julian Hernandez.
Present.
Patty Mito.
Here.
Aurora Garza.
Here.
Brenda Trevino. Robert Villarreal.
Present.
Ben Briscoe. Chris Valadez.
Here.
We have a quorum, so let us stand for our invocation as well as Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Milestone?
Heavenly Father, we come before you at this moment, Lord God, once again, to just give you honor, glory, and praise for all your wonderful blessings that you have bestowed upon this great city of Pearsall, through the leadership, Lord, in our political arena, through our city council, the school board, the commissioners, and Lord, we just thank you for everything that's happening and that's about to happen. We are expecting, by faith in you, great and wonderful things to keep on happening for the city of Pearsall and for its citizens. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we proceed on, I'd like to remind everyone to mute your cell phones or turn them off, please. Citizen to be heard, item 4. In accordance with section 3.12 of the Pearsall Municipal Charter, all meetings of the City Council and all committees thereof shall be open to the public. And the rules of the council should provide that the citizens of the city shall have a reasonable opportunity to be heard at any such meeting in regard to any matter there considered. Any such meeting shall comply with all applicable laws of the state of Texas. Accordingly, the Pearsall City Council has rules of courtesy in place for all persons in attendance at its meetings. The presiding public officials should at all times preserve order and decorum and prevent personal reference to council member or the imputation of personal motives. Citizens requesting to be heard shall sign up before the meeting is called to order and shall be called upon the order in which they are signed in. The presiding official shall use discretion and time allow the citizen to be heard. The citizen shall make every effort to be brief, get to the point, and to limit speaking time to no more than 3 minutes. Personal attacks shall not be allowed. First one on the list, please. For the record, Councilman Briscoe arrived, 7:02.
Reynaldo Trevino.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Council members, guests, citizens. This is a quick update on the community educational meeting that was held 31 January. Mr. Hernandez and the mayor were there. Just a summary, because I have 3 minutes. In terms of the vocational training, nobody was really against vocational training in Pearsall County. Pearsall ISD attendees were concerned about the school fundamentals, the core courses. There was an agreement that there needs to be a balance between college and vocational training. The need to create private or public partnerships for vocational training was discussed. Senator Waldrum did bring up the idea of more booster clubs supporting vocational students. The issue of what vocations? Well, the state has a list of what vocations are acceptable by the state. So there will be vocations that would be limited by the state. The other issue was we need to tell kids about vocations at a lower grade and an earlier grade. 2 main points, which I'd like to pursue later on in the agenda, not today, but at a future date. Maybe we should pursue a bond for vocational funding. Pursue a city, county, school grant rider for vocational grant funding. Is that my 3 minutes? So the thought behind a bond or interlocal agreement, if you look at Pearsall and the 30-mile radius, there's probably at least 10 towns, 10 school districts that would benefit from vocational training. So later this month, in fact this week, I'm going to go talk to the superintendent from Catula, because I think an interlocal agreement could be made not just here in the city, but between counties within the county, and I think we could probably pursue a more robust training program. And the reason for that is the school has basically said, we're tight, we got no money, there's no more money for vocational training, and we're not basically going to pursue that. Their thought process is they're going the right track, and if more money was made available, they would consider vocational training. That's what I got out of the meeting. So hopefully, if I go talk to the county, which I will be talking to the judge, an agreement that could create more funding would be very useful for the community, but mostly for the kids, that when they graduate, you know, they have a future, and that's what we're talking about. Since less than 10% of our kids finish college, I think vocational training is a very good approach for our young population. Mayor, council, thank you. Guests, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next.
William Martin.
No, I thought it was just a sign-in sheet, my bad.
Rodriguez. That's it.
That's it. Thank you very much. We're moving on to item 5, public hearing. A, open public hearing for the changing of zoning of 8.38 acreage tract of Ian Morales survey, survey number 1413, abstract 496, located at 1220 South Pecan Street, Pearsall, Frio County, Texas, from A/O, agricultural and open space district to R-3, manufactured home district. Granting a request for changing of zone to allow for operation of manufactured home park at 1220 South Pecan Street, Pearsall, Frio County, Texas. Need to entertain a motion to open public hearing, please.
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second. You have several on the first. You have several that motion on the first.
Okay. Chris and Aurora. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. The meeting is now open. The hearing is now open.
Mayor, council, good evening. This item is brought to you for, just like it states, the gentleman has submitted a request for a rezoning change. Meeting for the Planning and Zoning Commission was held yesterday. 3 members of the presiding body, 3 members of the 5 presiding body were present. Those 3 members that were present all voted in favor of this request for the approval of the change of zoning request. And I do know that there are individuals that have signed up on this item publicly, so I will address the council as such. If you may entertain what they have to say.
Okay, who are the ones to sign it? Let's have them to speak first.
On the sign-in sheet, first we have Reynaldo Trevino.
On this particular issue, I'm against the mobile home park. The other people that are closer to that park will probably speak to that. I do have an issue with the process. I asked a very critical question on how was the process objectively evaluated in terms of a yay or nay, and I did not get an answer from the chair on how that was evaluated. For example, I think 12 letters were sent. One neighbor showed up. I asked a very basic question: hey, if 5 people show up that are against, would you vote for it or against it? I did not get a clear answer to that from the committee. I would recommend that the committee be directed to have or develop criteria so that when they're asked the question of what the process is, they could articulate the process. But for the record, I'm against the mobile home park. I think we have enough parks in the area, in the city, for our citizens.
Thank you. Next.
Ana Valdez.
Hello, my name is Ana Valdez and I live in 805 East Pickles. For the longest time, I've lived there for 38 years. I've always had a drainage problem. Every time it rains, 3 or 4 days in a row, I fear that the water would come into my garage. There's a ditch right in front of my home, but the city does not keep it up. Every time it rains, they all run to put one of those barricades. Often I've called police that we have stranded cars there. And I feel that having a mobile home park near my home would jeopardize my home flooding, and I don't have flooding insurance. That property is not in the flood zone. It's not designated as a flood zone. So I feel that by having this mobile park in front of my home is not a good idea.
Thank you, ma'am.
Diana Ventura.
I need, Diana Ventura, I need 621 East Pecos. I never got a letter, I just found out about it last night, that they wanted to build a park, mobile park there. And it's right in front of my house, and I don't want to park there. I would think that being 3 blocks away from the courthouse, you would rather have nice homes built there instead of a mobile home park.
Thank you, ma'am.
Johnny Ventura?
I'm Johnny Ventura, at 621 East Beckless. This is what my wife is speaking. And I'm against the trailer park because to me it feels that it's going to derail away my property. And I've been there almost 40 years. And it's really a very quiet neighborhood. And to me, having a trailer park there would be traffic-wise, residents, and I wouldn't feel like comfortable or safe. And that's my opinion. I'm just against it. And like I said, I don't see that we need a trailer park there. I'd rather go with a subdivision with houses instead of a trailer park. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Elvira Cadena?
I'm Elvira Cadena, and I have a house in 806 East Pecos. It's going to be next to the charter park. And I think I have a lot of issues about not wanting to have the charter park there. One is it's going to be safe for our kids to have that charter park. I have a grandkid living next. It's going to be next door, right there next to it. My grandkids, they're going to be there. I have 2 granddaughters, and the police is going to be patrolling all this because it's going to be 51 charters there. It's going to be a lot of traffic. You know, how are they going to control this? How are they going to do it? And another thing, they're going to work in the drainage. You know, we have that big problem right there. And having those charters there is going to be a bigger problem. If they're going to work on that, they're going to fix all this. Right now, we already have a problem. Having those charters there is going to be a bigger problem. So the city, or who's going to take a step and work on this? Okay? And I have another issue about the property. The property fits into the city master plan or no? I don't know the answer about this. Somebody can answer to this question, right? And what about the drainage? You know, we're gonna have a good drainage for the water to go in it. And my son lives there right now, my grandkids. I would have the problem when it rains, right? We're gonna have a major problem now with the charter park here. So I'm against all this, on the charter park, and that's it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sonia Valdez?
Good evening. My mother
Good evening.
and Ms. Cadena and the Venturas have brought up a lot of issues. I grew up in that neighborhood. I lived at 805 South Ash for more than 30 years. And when my mom told me this evening, or earlier this afternoon rather, that they're wanting to do a mobile home park, she wasn't given notice. If it wasn't for a concerned neighbor that went to her house last night, we wouldn't be sitting here today. My concern is property taxes can go up to the current residents that live there because of this new proposed mobile home park. Like my mother said, and Ms. Cadena, that area currently floods. My dad goes crazy every time it rains because he just called me, look, the rain, it's already up here. They send me pictures. I'm like, then what can I do? Nobody has gone to go clean that area, that ditch. This could result in further problems that we currently have as far as with sewer and water and all other utility services, and the value of the current homeowners can go down. You know, we're not promised to live here forever. I'm here because one day my parents will pass away, and since I'm the oldest, it's gonna be my responsibility to take care of that home. And if I can't take care of it, I'm gonna have to sell it, and that's where, you know, it can affect me in the long run. I feel that, like others have already expressed, we already have a lot of mobile homes. If we ride around through town, let's look at the current mobile homes. How many of those are functional? How many of those are decent? Like Mr. Ventura said, preferably a good neighborhood. That's what we need here. Thank you.
That's all we have on the list.
And I believe the applicant has submitted the encore request as president, if you would care to address it as well.
Oh, okay, he's here? His name?
Manjeet.
So we can hear? What do you have to say about?
Okay.
Tell us about your project. What are you planning, proposing? Have you had any developer or engineers out there studying the land for drainage or any of that?
Just like into all the paperwork with the reservoir, all the planning, and civil engineer and architect engineer, they will be into from city, something like that.
We have not yet received a full set of plans. We've received the layout of what he's proposed there, but the contingency to him getting those plans submitted to us would be, again, his rezoning request be submitted before council and action on that. But as far as the civil plans, I believe his corresponding disciplines are working on that to present that to us. And what we have now is just a preliminary layout is what he wants to propose. The number of mobile homes would be 51 at that location.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let's keep me to against the traffic park. The first thing is years ago, I'm working for the city to close the behind my place. The street is fine and hangs. There's a lot of trash all the time there. All the time. We working to city can close that street. It's closed. And I mentioned with this trailer park, 50 or more trailers there, there's gonna be a lot more trash. And I'm pretty sure they're gonna open this street back again. And I guess of that. My house has been broken 3 times there. I'm waiting for 100 or more people living. I don't know what kind of people they come and live. My grandkids even live there now, and I'm scared of that too. So I guess that's kind of set it up there.
Any other questions? Before I go to Mr. Jackson, questions? Comments?
Okay, so is this for Mr., this is for Mr., I'm not sure your, Manjeet. Okay. Is this gonna be 51 trailers, or are you putting RVs there?
It's all mobile homes.
All mobile homes,
Yes.
and you're purchasing all 51 of them?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, real quick if I could, just remember this is the public hearing, so if you have questions of the citizens or the applicant, as the councilwoman just did, that's fine. Discussion comes later when we get to the other topic.
What's the square footage on those homes, sir? And what type of homes are they?
It's all the same. It's a 16 by 78. I have the paperwork here. You can see.
And will they be brand new mobile?
Brand new, yes. All new.
Any other discussion before I close?
Are these going to be homes that you purchased and then rent out, or are you going to allow individuals to come in?
No, I will purchase. I will purchase to bring here.
They'll all be yours?
Yes.
And they'll be skirted?
Yes.
They can be skirted. And you're going to pave the roads or caliche or what?
Yes.
Well, either or?
Yes.
Paved or caliche? The roads, are you going to pave the roads when you develop that, or are you going to have paved roads?
Yes, in my property, yes.
Mr. Mtg, did your design team, did they foresee any kind of development problems?
No.
No.
Sweet. Go ahead and close the public hearing, and then we'll discuss the outcome in just a little bit, okay? Entertain a motion to close the public
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, let's move on to 6A. Presentation, audit status update, presented by Robert Carter Jr. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to give you a status of the 2017 audit. This is the audit that we're preparing for the capital. So last year we completed a 16 audit. I think it was the August meeting or September meeting that we approved the 2016 report. There was an issue with the software. The kind of software you have is Encode. It only allows for 12 months to keep open at one time. So when they posted the audit adjustments, and these were the 2016 audit adjustments, they got posted in 2017. So I met with Josie last week and we were able to reconcile those. We completed our interim work, our year-end work last week. There's a couple of pending items that we are going to resolve this week, so I'm hoping to have a substantial part of the audit done in February and then bring it to council in March. And I know that the city charter had mentioned having it completed in February. And I don't anticipate that being a problem next year, as long as we have this. I guess if we can have the audit adjustment posted into the books, I guess by October, which if we have the audit done by March, I don't think that would be a problem after having the 2018 audit. And I'll mention to the city manager, we'll update you again every week as far as the progress. But that's what the timeline I see right now. Having basically adjusted trial balances in February and then having a report in March.
Mayor, can I add a little bit to that, please? Sure. So I just want the council to realize what we're talking about here. So when the charter was redone, the deadline for the presented to the city clerk was moved up to February. State law requires it in March, but we actually set that audit deadline to be a little bit earlier. If you look at the audit that we're doing this year compared to what's been done in the past, I mean, it's like comparing a first grader's reading assignment with a college report. I mean, the cap is a whole lot, there's a whole lot more to it. Which is what we talked to you about last year. We want to get to, we don't just want to have an audit, we want to have a certified audit when we do that. We want to be at the top level of reporting our transparency to the citizens and not just, you know, like what was done in the past when 5 audits were done at once, so a grant could be, you know, we could get a bond or we could do a loan or something. We're trying to establish something that's way above that. So the numbers will be done by February, which will match. I mean, we can file the draft audit with the clerk by the end of, or the draft numbers with the clerk by the end of the month. It'll meet the charter. But in March when we come, you're going to have something way above what the charter ever envisioned when you get the audit this year.
And that's another thing as far as, I guess, what's the earliest you've had an audit done? Is it, I think by June, right? So you're making a lot of progress towards, you know, but this year doing it and getting it done in March. And then, like I said, with the next year, as long as we have it, the trial balance is ready by October, then we can meet that as far as with the actual report. But that is a lot of progress. And the ones in June weren't necessarily cappers either, right? They were just regular report, general purpose.
Madam Mayor, so do we need to take action?
No, I was just giving you a status of where we're at, because you had mentioned that as far as that city charter, so I just wanted y'all to be aware of that it's definitely doable, and I don't foresee it being, we can probably do that in the next month.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, 7A, old business. Discussion and possible action regarding setting date, time, and location for a joint workshop with the Pearsall County. Previously tabled items, so we need to entertain a motion to untable.
Motion on table, Mayor.
You have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Mayor, Council, we tabled this last time because we were waiting to hear from the county, especially on the Meals on Wheels issue that we had just, the mayor and I just met with them on, and we were also looking at, we thought we would hear something from them related to the MS contract based on what the judge had told me. We've not heard about either one of those items to this point, so I think we need to table it again and wait until we hear from the county, so we can set a date and deal with all the appropriate items.
Okay. Entertain a motion, please.
suggested by the city manager, make a motion to table this item.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item A, new business. Discussion and possible action regarding ordinance number 2018-02-01, changing the zoning of an 8.3 acre tract of the PF Morales survey number 1413, abstract 496, located in 1220 South Pecan Street, Pearsall, County, Texas, from A/O Agriculture and Open Space District to R3 Manufactured Home District. Granting a request for change of zone to allow for operation of manufactured home park at 1220 South Pecan Street, Pearsall, County, Texas, and providing an effective date. This is an action item. We need to entertain a motion to discuss, please.
Motion.
May I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion. So we've heard from the citizens and that live in that area, and you guys have any additional questions before I ask the city manager his opinion?
My question is there anybody who lives in that area that's actually for it? Nobody, right?
No.
So my opinion is that we stand by our citizens that live in that area.
Okay. Any other? Yes, sir.
I'm a little concerned why some of these people were not notified properly of this.
And that you're allowed to have them.
He's going to address that.
He's going to
I'll address that.
You'll address it?
If you know any other questions.
Yes, sir.
We're currently in the process of working on a city master plan, and one of the components is housing, of course, and infrastructure. How we're at the city to address some of them. You know, we have not had a city master plan in a while, and now that we have people in place to address these issues in town, we have to stop and look at how we're going to develop the town, which areas are going to be residential, which areas are going to be commercial, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because we also have to think about our future, our kids' futures, and the economic base of this community. And that hasn't been given a lot of thought, but this council, I believe, is moving towards that. And I think at this moment, we just need to look at, look forward to developing a master plan that is going to address a lot of these things, so that we can have a clear process of when areas need to be developed or want to be developed, and how we're going to involve the community first and foremost, because we need to involve every decision we make.
I agree with Mr. Hernandez. Before, we make a decision on such a large project that, we incorporate our master plan, and that way, before potential developers come in, they know the areas already, what they can, where they can put certain items, housing versus trailer versus, brick or whatever. So that's just my opinion. I think before we venture off into another larger plan, we need to have that in place. And we're working religiously on that.
Well, one more thing real quick. We just raised taxes, and we had to do that because we had to fix the sewers, and there's a lot of infrastructure issues. And we've got to plan for the future, because otherwise we're going to have to keep digging into the pockets of the citizens. And we've got to do better planning. The planning hasn't been done, and so we are in the process of starting some of that, so that we can make things livable for the community, and everyone coexist within the residential areas that they would like to have.
You guys have anything to say?
I know that from time to time we look at this zoning and look at changing it at the request of individuals, and my understanding zoning is in place to protect the neighborhood, so that your homes are protected from things that would deteriorate in value. And we have changed zoning from time to time that looks like those things are perhaps a loved one that wants to move a trailer next to their house and that kind of thing. But certainly Julian's focus is I think spot on, that we need housing and we appreciate those who are willing to come in, but it needs to be done correctly. And certainly I do, Chris, concur that in the past when we announced that this was happening, everybody had a chance to come and speak against it. And certainly speaks to me when there's so much not in favor of this.
Any other from the council before I ask the city manager his opinion? Yes, sir.
Mayor, Council, first I want to address the concern about the notice. In our ordinances, it requires that there's a request for a zoning change, that anybody that has a property that is adjacent to the property in question, within 200 feet, that they get notice, they get written notice. So we have some of these individuals that live right across the street. So there's a property and then they have a neighbor and they're right across the street from that neighbor, but they're outside the 200 feet. So that's why they don't get a letter. There were 12 properties that were identified. Xavier and I went through that map again this afternoon. There was one property that was misidentified originally, but it was caught before last night and he was given a letter as well. So there was 12 properties that were actually met the ordinance requirements of the 200 feet. Now, and Mr. Trevino will be one to testify to this, everybody else gets noticed by the notice in the newspaper. And that's how he found out about it, and that's why he was here last night. Because he read the legal notices in the newspaper and saw it, and that's why he came in and voiced his opinion. So notice was put out properly according to the ordinance. Now, we could change it where it's 400 feet or 800 feet. Now, that's going to put, now if you get 400, 800, maybe 150 letters instead of 12 or whatever, and it takes a lot more time to designate those and to figure out which ones actually fall within that boundary. So that with the notice, I did review what Mr. Antu did with the notices. It was proper. So under the ordinance, which is what we have as a guideline to do it, the notice was given properly. There's a lot of other issues that have been brought up by citizens here tonight and by you guys, and I think there was an overarching theme in that. But the reality is with those things, we need to make sure that the decision that you make, regardless of anything else, that decision falls into the ordinance as well. And so we want to make sure that we understand what you can do and what you can do outside of that ordinance. The reality is when it comes to rezoning, there are no requirements on the council for what you do. You can choose to rezone or not rezone, and there's not really a particular item in there addressed in the ordinance, save for one, which is a master plan. So we don't have a master plan. The ordinance contemplates construction of this nature to be in agreement with a comprehensive plan for the city. As you all know, that master plan is what we're working on right now. The fact that we do not have it completed, though, does not suggest that each of you cannot make a decision on approval based on how you see the city of Pearsall being developed today and into the future. So if there's a master plan, you need to make your decision in accordance with it. But if there's not one, then you get to make your decision based on your vision of what the city will look like today, tomorrow, and into the future. So that addresses the master plan issue. The drainage issue was brought up by a lot of people, and it came up by council too. The current city ordinance does not require a drainage study or drainage to be addressed prior to approval of the zoning change. So it doesn't require that drainage be done. However, a drainage study would be required to obtain a building permit, which would be required prior to development of the land. So if the zoning change was done, then they would have to come in and get a building permit to do the building permit to do the work, the roads, etc. Then the drainage study would be required to be done. The problem is you've already approved the rezoning at that point. So it kind of is counterproductive to each other. Council can require, though, again, because you have authority over all this, you can require that a drainage study be done prior to rezoning if you have a concern that there's a flooding issue for the development of land proposal. So what that's saying is there was no requirement in the application for a drainage study, but that doesn't mean that you guys cannot require it up front as a condition of approval if you choose to approve it. Clear enough? Traffic. Nothing in our ordinances requires a traffic study to be done for rezoning either. That does not mean that the city council cannot require a potential traffic study, potential traffic impact study to be completed prior to a rezoning request either. All the roads surrounding the land in question are ancillary roads that are not main or major roads. The roads include Pecan and Haynes, where the entrances and most of the traffic would be, that would be affected by the proposed plat provided with the application. So it doesn't require it, but you can require it up front if you want to approve it with the requirement that the traffic study be done as well. But that traffic study is not required, but that doesn't mean that you can't require it if you choose to. Public safety, that was addressed by a bunch. 51 additional dwellings housing at least 51 additional families would undoubtedly lead to additional calls for emergency services. That would be the potential for significant increase in that area. I mean, obviously that's a lot of houses. One of the biggest concerns from an administrative standpoint that I have, and we heard a bunch of this too, is the street and infrastructure. The council can require any additional street, water, wastewater, or gas improvements to be provided by the applicant if that's what you choose to do. But it has to be done before you approve these requests. Necessary improvements can only be known through completion of the potential traffic impact study a review of our city utility capacity by our city engineer, not by the engineer, paid for by the applicant who's going to find what they want them to find. And a census of the area's residents. We don't know how many kids we have playing on those streets. We don't know if we need sidewalks, curb and gutters. We don't know any of that until we actually get out there and find out what is actually there. Keep in mind that requiring new sidewalks, curb, gutter, or other improvements would further narrow the existing roadway there. Along Haynes, the current right-of-way is only 60 feet as it is. Improvements to that street would significantly reduce the width of the street and may cause hardships on the existing residents. If it gets too narrow, we can't park on the street. Some of them are probably used to parking on those streets, and we may have to remove that requirement. If the infrastructure is not adequate for 51 additional dwellings, that would impact both the existing homeowners and the proposed new dwellings. If we don't have enough water pressure on that line that goes through there, and now we had 51 new, now all of a sudden maybe the people up front don't have the same water pressure they had before either. If these are needs that need to be addressed up front, the burden of fixing problems that arises after completion of the project would then fall on the city. So if those things are ignored now and the zoning's approved, and then later on down the road all of a sudden we don't have water pressure, the roads are a mess, whatever, now you can't go back and put that on the developer. Now it's going to be on the existing taxpayers, it's going to be on everybody else to pay for that burden to fix all that. And I think most of you guys know well about that if you just look at the Drew property subdivision and what happened there. That's exactly what happened there. The ordinances of the city do not require the city council to pass any rezoning request that does not meet their full approval. If any of the items listed above are a concern for you, they should be addressed prior to approval. That means that you can place any requirements to address these issues above on the applicants as part of approval. You can table the request and ask for additional information, or you can straight out deny the rezoning request. That's your choice, if that is what you choose to do. A rezoning request is no different than everything else that you consider. It should be what provides the greatest good for the greatest number of citizens.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we not allow the zone change.
There is a motion on the table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously. We're not changing the zone. Thank you. Item B, discussion and possible action regarding pending application for the city of Pearsall board and commissions. This is an action item. We need to entertain a motion to discuss this. Motion. You have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes, sir.
Madam Mayor, Council, I got a whole stack of them for you this month. First, we have one application from a citizen requesting to serve on the Tourism and Business Development Board. That application is from Mr. Ray Trevino. The mayor and I both reviewed his application, and we recommend that he approve. Second, we had a significant number of applications filed for members to be on the Main Street Advisory Board. As you know, we set up this stuff last month to get the director in, and you guys established the board so we can get started on this because we have to get this in place right away. So we have the proposal was for a 7-member board, and so we have a number of applications. The mayor and I reviewed those applications as well, and we have 7 applications that we're recommending for approval for that board. Those applications are Connie Elizondo, I don't think she's here, Susan Hinnett, Melinda Garrett Woodham, Andrea Martinez, who's sitting here, Mr. Dave Sinden, Mr. Grady Roberts, Tiffany Talamontes, and Michelle Montes. And so we recommend that you approve those 7 and Mr. Trevino for the Tourism and Business Development Board.
Motion to address this.
Motion to approve.
May I have all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations to all the new board members.
I didn't really push it in here because I knew we were going to have a full house tonight, but we still have no show.
Congratulations.
She's over here.
Congrats. Thank you for your willingness to serve our council.
Thank you, Ray.
You get candy?
No.
Ray was going to be here anyway, so I'm not going to give him any credit. He was going to be.
Okay. Item C, discuss and consider and approve the Frio Pioneer Jail Museum request for financial assistance for Pioneer Days Festival from the hot tax funds. This is an action item. Need to entertain a motion to discuss, please.
Motion to discuss, Mayor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Oh, there she is.
Mayor Moore, And council, I'm Mona Hoyle, in case you don't know, and I've been selected because I'm the oldest member of our Pioneer Trail Museum Association, and so I get the honor to come and talk to you.
And the best looking, huh? There you go.
Anyway, we're going to have, on a fun note, we're going to have our 21st annual Pioneer Day celebration on the 23rd and 24th of March. Last year, you all approved up to $4,500 for bands for this celebration. We have 2 bands coming on Friday night and 1 band on Saturday. And so we're asking that you allow us or you help participate and be a partner in this, up to $4,500 again this year. And we're looking forward to a great time. And as you know, Pearsall has had lots of firsts, seconds, and thirds, but we are up to our 21st. So we think we're kind of a little bit different, that we're able to pull this off every year. And we have a good time. And we do celebrate our history and our pioneers.
Any questions you need to ask Mrs. Hoyle?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we approve the request.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we hope you're all there to help us celebrate.
Item E, discussion and possible action regarding ordinance number 2018-02-02, amending the adopted budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2017. Action item, you can entertain a motion to discuss, please.
Motion to discuss.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes, sir.
Madam Mayor and Council, we have 3 budget amendments for you tonight. This first one is the one that is necessary due to the new contract the council approved for me last time, which is to encumber the remainder of the severance package. The finance director has prepared a budget amendment for you that will increase the proposed revenue from our sales tax by $55,000 and encumber that in the severance package line item. And I just want to let you guys know before we move forward with this, as of February, receiving the payment in February, we're up $155,370 on the sales tax on what we projected.
Awesome.
So this is kind of a savings account. As long as you guys don't do anything crazy and fire me, then this is still there at the end of the year.
I fired you the last meeting. Okay, any other questions from the council? Okay. Need to entertain a motion to address this, please.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2018-0202.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We are down to E. Discussion and possible action regarding ordinance number 2018-02-03, amending the adopted budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2017. Action item. Any motion to discuss?
Motion to discuss.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Mayor and Council, this budget adjustment, when we came down a few meetings ago, we talked about, as our finance director was going through on stuff, that there was those funds that weren't reported on the finance report, and we showed you what those funds were. One of those was a police training fund. So we went back, our chief of police went back and found out what the deal was with that. That's actually a revenue that we receive from the state every year if we fill out the paperwork and request it. Hadn't been received for the 2 years prior. It was actually past the deadline, but Peter was able to submit the request and get the payment for this year. They said they would go ahead and pay out our payment this year. Got about $13,000 in that fund sitting there, plus we'll get about another $2,000 for this year. That'll take it up to about $15,000. So what we're requesting in this is to transfer $5,000 out of that fund into their training line item, so that we're not using their seizure money for training, because they can be used to purchase equipment. So that'll leave the seizure money for equipment, and we'll be able to use this for training, because that's what this is specifically for.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2018-02-03, amending the adopted budget fiscal year.
Second.
There's a motion as well as a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Discussion possible. Item F, discussion And possible action regarding ordinance number 2018-0204, amending the adopted budget for fiscal year October 1st, 2017. Action item. Need to entertain a motion to discuss, please.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes, sir.
Madam Mayor, City Council, this budget amendment is for the purpose of reestablishing the planning director position, but changing it. We keep talking about these things we need to do. We need to be doing stuff to try to bring business, and we don't really have a person that's here to push that. What I would like to do, we've left poor Xavier. I mean, everything is all on Xavier. We gave him public works, and he still had to do community development. He was still the codes officer. He was the jack of all trades. So I didn't have enough time to do it. So what I would like to do is to separate that portion of planning, of the planning and community development out of his position, leave him just as public works, and develop a new position that's planning and community development along with economic development. So we can get somebody in here that's focused on bringing new businesses in, that's what they spend their time doing, is trying to build up our community and get some of this new stuff going. What we're asking for is an increase in the revenue projection based on the $155,000 extra that we're up right now in sales tax. An increase of $25,000 in that revenue projection, which still keeps us well below where we're at right now, and an increase in, where's the other one? Oh, that was for the whole year, wasn't it? Yeah, that because we're not looking at a whole year that would cover this year. So we're just looking at an increase in the sales tax revenue so we can get an able-bodied person in here to start building up our economic base.
Okay.
So, T, this 25,000 would be from now till the end of September, so that's 7 months, so it's 4,000 off.
6 months.
So yeah, so it would be a beginning salary of 35,000 with a raise after that to 40,000.
And but that our 150,000 net gain in revenue is over the first 5 months.
5 months, yes, sir.
So we can assume that's whatever is 30,000 a month. So our projections are just 4,000 or 5,000 a month. Allocate, so it's just a revenue adjustment.
That's all it is.
It's a new position, right?
It basically is because we're adding the economic development component to it, but we're going to take the planning and get the planning portion to them too. So that we do, you can't do the economic development and community planning without, those things go hand in hand. So that person needs to be doing both.
So two, we got to find that person, right?
Oh, we'll find somebody, trust me.
But it's still dependent upon us hiring that person.
Correct.
So it could be another month or so before we hire that person.
Could be. Yes, sir.
What does the job entail?
So the charter is pretty specific on what community planning entails, and that that's everything that we do in the community, reviewing codes, all that stuff is under community planning. Economic development, then of course would be a whole different. It's about trying to bring businesses in, trying to boost local businesses we have. I see this person working in conjunction with our tourism director on joint stuff that we can try to do there. We need somebody that's spending every extra minute I have, I'm reaching out to other businesses trying to get them to come in, but there's not a lot of time to do that. We need somebody that can make contact with these other businesses, can keep in contact with them, then can come back and tell the council, look, I've got this business, they're interested in coming here, but they want a little bit of help on this, or they want a little bit of help on that to get here. What can we do to try to get these guys here? Basically, it's a salesman for our city trying to get those businesses to come. I think right now is the perfect time for us to try to push that economic development. We're seeing a steady increase. We're not seeing a boom in the oil field again, but I think the sales taxes show us that we're seeing a steady increase, which is what we were told was going to happen. We're not going to see that big pop again, but we're going to keep seeing those steady increases. We can show those steady increases now over about the last year, and we can send somebody to business and say, look, our sales taxes are going up. There's opportunity for you.
Yes, sir.
I was going to say, it's also a good time to start developing or appointing an economic board as well, because we need to have more people behind the project, actually. And the other thing is that, I just went like, city of Rome. If we can start with the board, and so forth, and just have this person maybe now came back with some grant writing type skills.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because we need to maybe secure some funds here and there for some projects as well.
Any other questions? If not, we need to entertain a motion to address this item.
I move that we approve ordinance number 2018-0204 as presented.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item G, discussion and possible action regarding ordinance number 2018-02-05, authorizing and allowing under the act governing the Texas Municipal Retirement System updated service credit and said system on an annual basis for service performed by a qualifying member of such system whom at the effective date of the allowance are in the employment of the city of Pearsall. Providing for increased prior and current service annuities for retirees and beneficiaries of deceased retirees of the city, to increase the rate of deposit to the Texas Municipal Retirement System by the employees of the city, and establishing an effective date for an ordinance. This is an action item. Need to entertain a motion to discuss, please.
Motion to discuss.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Mayor, Council, that's a lot of words.
Yes. I needed my inhaler in between.
To say we're going to change the retirement rate from 5% to 6%, I mean, that's what it is. This is something we discussed during the budget last year. We had to cut it out. We couldn't figure out how to keep it in without cutting another position, so we cut it. This is one of the conditions I asked for in my new contract was no raise, but let's help the employees by getting this retirement built up so that they are comparable to other people around. In Texas, again, 5 levels, 5% at a 1-to-1 is the lowest level there is. That's what we are. Our own overarching body, TML, recommends that employees don't work for 5% cities. So this is to take us from 5% to 6%. I do want the council to know that as we discussed, this would also be a burden on the employees because now their portion that they have to pay goes up as well. So I met with every city employee in the last 2 weeks, and it was a 100% agreement that they want to see this go to 6% because they see the reality of what it does for them in the future. So if you have any other questions, I'll try to answer. We did bring budget numbers to you during the budget year. It's a net cost of about $37,000 for the city. And we'll figure that out. Effective date would be July 1st, 2019. That's the first time we can make it effective.
July 1st, 2019?
Yes, ma'am.
So in the current fiscal year, what do you plan to?
There won't be any current fiscal year. It'll be next year.
Oh, next year.
Yeah, we did ask them if there was any possibility to go retroactive. They said do it. Okay. They do it one time a year, January 1st. So it would be zero budget impact this year.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and approve ordinance number 2018-0205 and recognize the city manager for doing this to negotiate for the betterment of the employees.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We have to state the date.
Before you move on, I'd ask you to move item H to the end of the agenda until we get Bobby here. The next time on the agenda, if you could move it down until we get Bobby here. He's on his way, but he's not here yet.
Okay, so we move it on to I. Discussion and possible action regarding resolution number 2018-02-02, authorizing city manager to negotiate with and hire a contractor to conduct hot tax compliance revenue audit on local hotel and motels. Action item. Entertain a motion to discuss, please.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Mayor, Council, previously the council authorized the city employees to send out a letter to our hotel motel operators here in town, basically saying that we were giving them an opportunity to self-evaluate their compliance with the payments for hotel occupancy tax. That arose out of a couple of situations, one of those being our finance director reviewing information on the comptroller's website. And basically what that information was showing that the total sales revenue projected or reported by some of our motels didn't match what they were reporting to us with the hot tax payments. And so we said, okay, we'll give you guys a chance to get caught up, and if all the municipalities around us have done this. We sent out the notices. We had one motel that came in and paid $30-something thousand, and we thought, well, good, it's going to work. And then we realized that that was their late payments from last year, and it didn't have anything to do with actually reviewing it. And so we gave them a February 15 deadline, so they still have 2 more days to come in. But I want to read you an email that our finance director received from a gentleman in Petula, and I'm going to leave the names out of this, but this is what got us to bring this to you tonight. It says, Josie, concerning our earlier conversation about the purchase of the blank inn in Petula and scrupulous sellers of hotels, I've attached the information of what transpired. We purchased this hotel on June 2nd, 2017, and as you will see, the audit of the previous owner has left us away a great deal of money. We wanted to make sure you were aware of this as it happened to the buyer of the hotel that they currently have for sale in Pearsall. So this buyer bought a motel in Petula, and then Petula did the audits. $80,000 is what he had to pay. And so he brought this to our attention that we had a motel for sale here by the same owner. There are a couple of individuals that do this. This is what they do, is go in and audit those hotel occupancy taxes. You know, we can talk to them and find out who's going to give us the cheapest rate. But what this resolution is asking is for you to authorize me to talk to a person that does these audits and get started on these, because I think there's a bunch of money sitting out there.
Okay. Question. What kind of rates do you think they were talking about?
I spoke to our city attorney about this. I mean, actually, the first time we talked about it was about 6 months ago. The one that Jordanton used charged $800 per motel. And they generated about $80,000 in revenue out of, I think, 5 motels there. So it was very cost effective. I know there's a couple others that do it. That gentleman that did Jordanton was the one who gave me his contact information. So we'll start there, but we'll talk to all of them. Whoever gives us the cheapest rate, that's the one we use.
Any other question?
I'm assuming they're kind of like gas stations, and when the price goes up at one station, and the owner of the next station drives by and sees that his price goes up too, they're probably all going to be right about the same, but we'll see.
Okay, need to take a motion to address this, please.
Motion to approve resolution number 20180202. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's because it's an ordinance and a resolution, they can have the same word.
Oh, resolution.
Yeah, I saw your.
So you still have this. Okay, item J, discussion, consideration, resolution number 2018-02-03, to approve an increase in the monthly contribution to the Texas Emergency Service Retirement System on behalf of the Pearsall Volunteer Fire Department. Action item.
Motion to discuss, Mayor. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Mayor, Council, I'm going to ask our fire chief to talk to you about this.
Mayor, the past 3 years, we've been trying to catch up on our pension and retirement. So this is just part of that plan. We still have 2 years after this. When we first started the system, I don't know if y'all got a letter that I sent to them, that we contributed $12 a month for about close to 20 years. So that's why we're trying to catch up. If we look at the layout of the whole system, the whole 30 years we've been in it, right now we're up to $45, and we're just trying to catch up to some of the older people. So instead of getting $72 retirement, which is 6 times the contribution, which was $12 way back then, right now we're at whatever 40 times 7, 280. So we're just trying to catch up a little bit. So right now it's at 70 a month, and we're adding $10, which would be $80 a month for each person, and it's retroactive to the first of the year, through the whole course. And it's already been adjusted in the budget, and the budget. It's just really formalities.
Any question from the council?
The only thing I would add, that it is budget neutral, was included in the original budget the council.
I need to entertain a motion to address this item, please.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2018-0203.
There's a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, item K, discussion of possible action regarding contract with Newkirk and Newkirk. Action item, need to entertain a motion to discuss, please.
Motion to discuss.
Second. All in favor?
Madam Mayor, Council, I'll start off. I know some of you guys have some thoughts on this. You have a copy of the executive service contract that we found last year when we started working on the insurance, on our health insurance for the year. Contract was signed in 2014, automatically renewable, which made Newkirk and Newkirk our, whatever, our insurance agent or service agent or whatever the term for it is. That contract has a 75-day written notice to terminate before the year end. So this had come up when we did the insurance last year. It was requested to be on the agenda tonight so that it could be considered well within the 75 days, obviously. So it's your pleasure what you want to do with it.
From the council?
Question. Currently, Newkirk is the exclusive agent.
That's what the service agreement does.
So that limits others from...
It limits others from participating. So the positive part, there's one benefit that you have from having an exclusive agent, and that's when the RFP is done, you don't have to write the RFP. So you don't have to worry about making sure you have the right language in there or whatever. That's not a problem. I mean, the RFPs can be very basic too. You can write a one-page RFP for insurance, and I think they know what you're asking for. That's about the big benefit you get out of having an exclusive agent contract. The negative benefits, of course, are if there's a fee added on or whatever, it's probably reflected in the insurance rate that you pay because we're not doing this stuff for free. So that doesn't mean that we can't. We can do a number of things. If you guys choose to send him notice saying, we're breaking this contract, which is your right to do, a couple of things. One, the next time our insurance comes up, and we're going to do an RFP again, we could go out for RFP for this, and let everybody bid on this, and then go out for RFP for the insurance. We could write the RFP ourselves. We have last year's RFP. This one we just did. It's not going to change that much. It's a pretty substantial RFP. So we could write our own RFP and put it out and just consider our own bids. There's a number of different things we could do to try to make it work and see if we could reduce costs of the farm.
Okay. So his contract is up when?
Well, the way this contract is written, if you don't give notice within 75 days at the end of the year, it automatically renews each year and will keep going for a billion years. So your action item will be either to take no action, which would mean it would stay in effect. Well, you could take action in July, August, September, whatever. Or your action would be to send notice that we are not going to update. We're not going to update for 2019.
Yes.
You ready? I think to make the whole process more competitive and better services maybe for employees, I move that we advise Newkirk Inc. put them on notice that we are wanting to terminate the executive service contract.
There is a motion on the table. Second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Councilman.
Yeah.
Bitter. Thank you. Bob. Okay. And I think everyone raised their hand unanimously. Okay. Okay. No. No. Update regarding MuniCode. This is no action item, so we'll hear from the city manager.
So there's a whole bunch to talk about here.
Oh, Lord.
So right back here in the boxes, the codification project is completed. We have it, we have the binders, we have it all. So it's done. That's the small part. When we got it, received a bill from MuniCode. We had $5,000 in the budget to finish the project. We received a bill for a little over $10,000. Their synopsis of what we paid doesn't match our synopsis of what we paid. So we're working on trying to figure that out. We can't even find a signed contract because it was done in 2006, and God knows what happened to the signed contract. But we can't even find a signed contract. So trying to get MuniCode to find their signed contract and give it to us so we can see what it is. But we do have record of payments that were made in 2006, 7, 8, 9, and 14. and 13, excuse me, 13. Those payments in 2006, or 7, 8, and 9 specifically match items that we see in the contract that we have that's not signed. So they make sense. But when they show what they think we paid, one of those payments is missing from that. So I think they're missing one payment that we paid. Then there was the final conference, we know what that was, and so we were sure that was right. And I don't see where they have it in there either. So that would be all great if we could go back in our software and just see, okay, we wrote the checks, the checks don't show they were posted. Because they're from 2007 and 8 and 9, so she's trying to track down with the bank now those checks, so we can make sure those checks were actually, even though they were issued in our system, they may have never been sent out, they may have never, who knows. So we're trying to track down the cash checks from 10, 11 years ago now, so we can get on the same page with them when it comes to what we paid and what we actually paid. So we'll get it figured out. It's just gonna take some time. It's gonna take the bank a while to find those. They're in a box in a storage unit someplace by now, and they're 11 years old, so it's gonna take a while to find those. But we'll get it figured out, and we'll get the bill figured out. That part's easy. Now what we're gonna have to look at, so it's done, and that's great. It's gotta be maintained. Because we spent all this money on this project to put it all together, and now if it's not maintained, why do we do it? We're gonna have a big old mess again. So they've sent us some additional information on potential maintenance and some other stuff. What we're looking at is having that, putting together a proposal for the council where Muni Code actually maintains it. So every time you guys pass something, we ship it to them and they add it in where it goes, replace what needs to be replaced, whatever. And then they have a direct link that goes on our new website. So anytime we want to see an ordinance, we click on that link and it opens up all of our current ordinances. That's what would be normal. And we think we continue to have that money in the budget, and we've got that $5,000 there. It's not going to cost that much to maintain it. So we do the maintenance contract with them now, and we're still probably going to save money over what we projected it was going to cost us this year. If we still owe them $10,000, we'll use money out of contingencies to cover the rest of it. We'll be able to figure it out. But it's done. I mean, there is a document now that is what we've been looking for since I got here. That they got once, and then we didn't get it from our city attorney, and we had to get them to make it again. Yeah, that document we finally got. So that will be a set of books here at City Hall that will have the complete set of ordinances in them, which is what we're supposed to have. But once we have that link online, then that's easy. Now having that link online changes a lot, because we get an open records request for an ordinance. All we got to do is send them a link. We don't have to do the paper anymore. We don't have to do that stuff. We send them the link, and that satisfies the open records request.
Awesome.
It will make that part of it a whole lot easier. It'll make administration a lot easier too, because you'll be able to search out for certain words. You'll be able to, everything's there, nothing's missing. You don't have to go through volumes of books trying to find something that says dog. So you can make sure you've got everything related to you. Just put dog in the search window and you're done. So it's going to make things a lot easier, but the bill was not what we were expecting. The staff members told me they heard repeatedly, we've already paid them $10,000, we've already paid them $10,000. Not what the software shows. It shows that we paid them $8,900. Their record shows we paid them $5,100. So we got to get that worked out. But we're to have it in our possession, so well, get somebody else to maintain it if they can try to double charges. Figure out something. It's here. We got the product. Maintain it can be a whole different
Can you show it back from the beginning of time?
Yes, it's everything. And what's been replaced has been replaced, and what's been, if we did an ordinance that superseded others, it's in there. I mean, it's everything exactly like it is. Exactly what we have to work with. That's going to make it a lot easier for us to, we get questions out of council all the time. What ordinances we have related? It takes a lot of time for Crystal to go back and look for that stuff. There's not a way to search it except sit there. It's
antiquated.
So it's difficult when we get questions from you guys. What ordinances we have related to abandoned properties, or what ordinances do we have? I mean, sometimes it takes days to go back through all that stuff and find all that stuff. This will make it a whole lot simpler. We go back, find all those documents, download them, put them in a PDF, and email them to you. It will take 5 minutes, and you'll have everything that says dog, everything that says house, everything, whatever we're looking for. This will make things a whole lot better. We just got to get the other part.
And the financial dispute is only I don't know, it's $3,000 per.
They're saying we show we paid $8,900. They're showing we paid $5,100. So it's and when you got 2,800s and when every line item is 2,800 and 2,300, and they said we paid 51. Well, obviously they got the 2,800 and 2,300. So one of the 2,300s they said they didn't get, and the 1,500 they said they didn't get. So we just got to figure out And the 1,500 is actually one of the checks, the one check that's posted is that one, so we know it went. So for some, 12 years, I think they could easily have lost those, the record of those payments too. It normally doesn't take 12 years to get all these projects done. So we'll get it figured out. Muni Code's been very good to work with. Even their crystal's a little bit easier to get along with than our crystal, so. So we'll get it figured out.
When you've been put through the ringer working with this guy.
But that, we wanted to tell you, we wanted you guys to know it's here, because you guys have asked for updates repeatedly. We're getting close, we're getting close. It is here. Binders are here, everything's here. We've got it. We have an electronic version of it, correct? Electronic version?
No, that's what we have to pay for next. That was not, the electronic version was not included, or the online version.
The online version.
The online version was not included in the original bid or the contract. That's something that they sent to us if we want to add. But
So
our website is not done, so once it's completed, then we can add it and start paying for that. And I think it's like $400 is like the base for the year.
It's not that much.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then the maintenance is a little bit more. It's just like it's like going to movies. Everything you take off the menu costs you a little bit more.
Did they see if all of the ordinances were enforceable, or did they just organize?
They just organize them. Yeah, they just organize them.
Yeah, we're the one who make that decision. Yes, sir. You have a question?
A quick question, and maybe it's been done, but were all these ordinances from the past, were they approved with the council?
Were they what?
So
approved through councils.
That's a legitimate question, and I'll tell you why. There's ordinances in those books that aren't signed, but the minutes of the meeting say they were approved. So there was a review done on every one of those. If it wasn't signed, is there minutes to support that it was approved before it was submitted? That stuff from years ago is it's a nightmare.
And then we have ordinances that were passed but never.
Yeah, oh yeah, and there's minutes talking about ordinances that were passed, but there was never a written ordinance attached to the packet. Oh yeah. But best we could with the ones that weren't signed compared to minutes. If the minutes said they were approved, they went. Those other ones, you send the minutes on what else you're going to do because there's no document to show them. So now once we've gotten this whole thing put together, now it'll be easier when we start talking about whatever the issue is. And we start talking about, okay, let's get the ordinances around this fixed to meet our master plan. We can pull all those now, and then we can redo a single ordinance and replace that and get it all in one place. It'll make it easier to start getting everything put together right. It'll take some work, but it'll be easier.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Item M, discussion and possible action regarding update on the neighborhood center action item. Entertain a motion to discuss, please.
Motion to discuss. Second.
Did you get it, Kristen? All in favor?
Madam Mayor, Council, so a few things that have changed, well not changed, but additional information that we've received since the last time we talked about this. Item one, which is probably the biggest item out of the whole thing, are the TML contractors. So we had a TML assessor come in and look at the building, and he's doing the assessment of what the insurance is going to pay. We had a TML contractor come in to look at the demolition, and we talked about that. And he went through it. He's trying to determine what they have to do to do the demolition and what that cost is going to be, because that gets then put in to the total estimate, because TML pays that and the rebuilding of the building, or the equivalent of rebuilding of the building. When the demolition crew was here, the demolition assessor was here, we went and met with him. We did talk about the comments that have been made around town about the asbestos concerns. He had the same belief that we had. Fire denatures it, water denatures it. All we had was fire and water. Everything should be denatured. TML kind of got a little bit antsy about it and said, well, if there's been some people raising public concern, let's go ahead and do the test. So they had an environmental company come in and do the test. I received an email from the demolition assessor yesterday. It said the only asbestos that was found in that building was the glue in the floor tile and the main bathroom. That was it. There was no asbestos found anyplace else. And that it was so minimal that there was no abatement required for removal of the building. So basically they'll wet that floor down and they'll take that out, and that's it. So there was none in the ceiling tiles, there was none in the walls, there was none in the rest of it, just the main bathroom in the middle of the building. So that must have been retiled at one time, separate from everything else in the building. So and actually, in case we haven't talked about this before, the asbestos isn't in the tile, it's in the glue. It was the glue that they used at that time to put those tiles down. So that one little bitty portion of it was burned also. And so that's why they're saying there'll be no abatement required. We'll wet it down, take it out, it's done, and we don't have to worry about it. So he got that yesterday. We asked for a copy of the report, obviously, and he had already sent the report to the TML assessor so they can finish up. I am hoping that we will see the demolition crew here next week. When they show up, you'll see a fence go up around that thing, and they'll just start taking it down. I'm also hoping that we will see from TML an offer next week on what the insurance is going to pay. So that is the building part of it. The contents, met with talked to the assessor again. We had turned in about $177,000 in contents. That wasn't everything. That was what was done at the time he was here. When I spoke to him, we still had some stuff in the library. We still had some other things that we hadn't addressed yet. But we turned in $177,000 because while he was here, he wanted to take it. He ran that through his program based on depreciation and all that. He came up with a total value of what we turned in at $115,000. We were insured at $105, and so he said, "Don't send anything else because we'll get the $105." So we did receive the first. We had you guys approve the budget amendment at the last meeting. We had already received the $50,000 check, which was the first half of it. The lady at TML told me if you need it, we'll send you the rest. If you don't do it, whatever, we'll get you the rest as soon as you need it. We don't need it yet because we're starting to buy the supplies. New voting booths are sitting right back here. The stuff that we have to get in quickly, we've already ordered. But we do know the contents we're going to get the full insured value, which was $105,000. We have again repeatedly been talking with the TML assessor, and primarily. We'll also talk to the TML representative about what happens next, because they've told us from the start. The assessor told us what we'll do is we'll come in, we'll say, okay, the building was the building to rebuild is X number of dollars, put it back just like it was. Based on depreciation, today's value is this, so we're going to hand you a check for this. If you rebuild the building exactly like it was, then we'll give you the depreciation back too. If you don't, then there's an argument. Maybe we do it, maybe we don't. The argument we've been making, that we've been saying the same thing with them from day one, is okay, that building served every purpose on the planet. It was everything from a community kitchen to a summer rec area to offices to, it's been everything. And so where you show me in the insurance where it says, if we want to rebuild another facility to do the same purpose, why it has to be in the same location? If we don't want to put another building there, we want to put another building someplace else because it would better serve the community someplace else. Show us why we don't get the depreciation to build it. It's going to be for the same purpose. And that's what you're telling us, is if we rebuild for the same purpose, then we get the full amount. So the assessor, the TML assessor he's pretty much in agreement. He said, I agree with you. He said, I don't see why it has to go back right here. And I don't know why the insurance would say that it has to go back in the exact same spot. But I'm not the final decision maker. I would assume when we get the offer from TML, we're probably gonna have to go up there and sit down and talk to them and tell, and make the argument with them, and try to make sure that either that if they don't agree that it doesn't have to be in the exact same location, then the choice that council is going to have is, do we rebuild the exact same building in the exact same place so that we get the full value of the building, or do we take the depreciation loss and build something someplace else? I made the argument that it was a recreation building, so building a skate park where it was at. That's the same purpose. It meets the same purpose. So why would you not give us the depreciation back on that? Improving the park, whatever. We made a bunch of arguments with them, and at least I know this. I don't know that we're getting anywhere, but they know what's coming. They know we're going to request it, so I'm sure they're already talking about trying to see which way it's going to go. But like I said, I do anticipate that we'll have an offer by the end of next week. Now that we have the asbestos issue resolved with the report for good, I do believe we will see an offer by the end of next week. Awesome. They've been pretty quick to respond to everything. They're pretty fast. They work for us. We pay their, they're going to be fast. And now that this is done, I think it'll be pretty quick.
Did they pay for the TML, or who paid for the asbestos review?
That was part of the removal, so they'll pay for it, because it was required before they could determine what had to be done in the demolition, so they'll pay for it. They'll pay for the demolition, that's part. And the building was insured at 2.06 million, the total risk value on it was 2.06. I don't think that the value of that building is 2.06. So I think when they set that level on the building, I think they look at, okay, what would it cost for demolition, what would it cost? And so your insured value includes part of that. So I don't think that's gonna come off actually what we recuperate from the building.
How many square feet?
I don't know how many square feet it was. We talked about that there. Down below, we have a document that shows how many square feet it was.
30,000, 40,000.
I don't remember. And don't forget, now there's two portions. So the 2.06 was the actual square horseshoe. There was also the old PD, which was behind it, which was insured at 138,000, 198,000. So that will add on. The old PD was stick built. It's going to depreciate horribly because it was stick built in 1960. So the depreciation on it is going to be huge. The other building was brick and mortar, so it doesn't depreciate as fast. So we have actually both of those buildings.
Cafeteria. It was brick and mortar, the cafeteria?
The big building was, yes,
okay.
ma'am. Now, the other thing that we asked about, and that just so we would have it, so it would be information for the council to look at that time, we have those two outer buildings, the old cafeteria and the old bathrooms, I think it is, that are separated from it. There was no damage to those two buildings, but of course those buildings are they're not much use. So we actually asked them if they would include demolition of those two buildings, a cost to demolish. They're going to be here. There's no cost to get them here. None of that. They're going to be here. It's basically a truckload of equipment out of both of those little square buildings. And so they're going to include a second cost for that, which the city would have to bear if we decided to go ahead and take those out too. But we don't have the mobilization fees and all that with it. So we'll give it. The guy told me, he said it'll be cheap if you guys decide you want to do it. So that will be included, just so we have all the information there for the council to make a decision when that time comes.
Question. What about the tennis courts? Are they in what kind of condition?
I think the first time we looked at it with the assessor out there, Xavier, Peter, I think you were there too. He talked about the water from fighting the fire ran out on the courts, and so there was black all over water. He talked about including repainting those, did he not?
Yes, I think the surface, repainting the surface.
Yeah, and of course the fencing on that one side got kind of torn up. Some trees in the back we lost. They'll pay for the trees. There's some other little stuff on there too. There are also some other provisions in our insurance. There is a hazardous material removal cost. Of course, we don't have any hazardous material removal costs now, so that's off the table. What else was there?
What about the giant sycamore trees in the front?
They appear to be okay. Both of those trees appear to be okay. We did tell the demolition crew. We did ask that they try to figure out a way when they do the demolition to leave the arch with the 1946 date on it or whatever's on it, because so many people have asked about making sure we don't lose that arch. We looked at it with the demolition crew while we were there. It's kind of a stone archway, and then there's wood that comes off of it, so it looks like we'll be able to try to keep it there, and maybe at the entrance to the park or whatever we decide to do there. But it looks like we will be able to try to keep the archway too. There was a sprinkler system for the grass there. It was destroyed. They caught that. We talked about the Ansel system that was in there. That was a $55,000 system that they actually put on the building instead of putting on the content. So that'll help with. And it was only 6 or 7 years old.
What system?
That's the fire suppression system for a restaurant for the cookie. That was a brand new system. There's a double tank system. It was expensive, and it was only 6 years old. I think we figured out 5, 6 years old. So it didn't depreciate very much. It never been used. So it was basically sitting there brand new. Wow. So we got them to add that to the building part, which is another $55,000 we'll get out of the building. So we're just waiting on them to send us a quote, and it'll be pretty quick.
This is mainly just discussion. We had an action there, but I think
it's action if there was anything. We keep putting it on as an action item in case there's a possibility we could have got the offer from them today.
Oh,
so
okay.
when we do the agenda on Friday, we don't know what we're going to have on Tuesday, so we keep putting it as an action item just in case it comes in and we don't have to wait 3 days to schedule another meeting to take action on whatever we get.
Okay, so there's no action. You have a question before?
Did anybody in the neighborhood report any kind of damages there?
I have not heard a single claim of damages from anybody. The only thing that we heard from anybody around was the letter we received from the school that was responded to by our city attorney, and obviously that's a big point now.
So now that you have the final say as to the report and so forth, you can most likely publish that.
Absolutely. Well, that's why I asked for a copy of the report, because when I got the email, they had all the assessors and all them had emailed that report to somebody, and I think when the guy replied, he hit reply all, and he added me, and so when you reply all, you don't get the attachments. Instead of hitting forward, he hit reply all, and so I immediately responded to it and said, I want a copy of that report now. And as soon as we get a copy of that report, we'll make sure that there's a press release stating that there was nothing to be concerned at. So yes, as soon as we get it, and I will have our city attorney draft a letter to the school district with a copy of the report attachments. We'll take care of both of those at the same time. She needs those specifics.
So we're moving on to...
We move on to item 11. Bobby's about 7 minutes away.
Okay. Manager's report.
Okay, Mayor, Council, first thing, the Main Street program. Want to announce that we've completed the interview process for the Main Street coordinator position. We had a very impressive set of candidates. The original applicants were evaluated based on the information provided in their applications and resumes, and the list was narrowed down to 3 applicants to interview. Those 3 were offered interviews, and each interview was very impressive. Selection committee had a really hard time selecting a final candidate for this selection. However, the position has been offered to Ms. Leah Carrizales, and she will begin on Thursday. Leah comes to us with a degree in architecture and has studied both domestically and abroad. She has experience in restoration of historic buildings and brings a lot of energy to this position. So we're all very excited to be working with her, and she'll begin her new job on Thursday.
Awesome.
Earlier, the council asked a question, so I'll make this part of my report because I can say whatever I want to in my report. The council had basically asked when we're looking for a person to fill this other position that we created tonight. The reason we put this position together and brought it to this council meeting was because when we did the interviews for the Main Street position, we had a candidate that applied that had an absolute ton of education and experience related to community planning and economic development. So that was why we asked for this to be put together. So while the council's here, I also want to introduce, and I'm probably going to butcher your name, it's Uche Ekiozo. Uche has a degree in planning from the University of Nigeria. He has a master's degree in community planning and development. From the University of...
What university? Edinburgh.
In Edinburgh, England, and he has a master's degree in business administration from Texas A&M.
Texas A&M?
Texas A&M. He has a ton of experience building communities. So I'm not saying he's the one that's going to be selected, but I don't know how anybody's going to be. It's going to take somebody with a ton of experience to impress us beyond. Just to give you an answer, to give you an idea how tough it was in there, when we finished the interviews, Mr. Pearsall his head was about to explode. This one back here, our code officer, was bouncing off the walls because he had somebody he could talk to that understood codes and understood all that stuff. And our tourism director said, "This is easy." What do you mean this is easy? She said, "This is easy. You're going to hire both of them. We can't afford not to get both." So that's why we started working on the other position. So we'll continue to work on that. But he has a tremendous resume, and he came down tonight so that you guys can meet him and he can be here and see how everything functions here. His wife is a teacher in San Antonio and teaches for the San Antonio pre-K program.
Pre-K?
Pre-K for SA.
Pre-K for SA. Number 2, First Lady of Texas visit. So we talked about this a little bit last time. We have some confirmations now. As previously discussed, the First Lady of the state of Texas will be in Pearsall for an official kickoff for our Main Street program, and that has now been set for May 1st. Texas Main Street staff members will also be here at that time to provide some training for our Main Street coordinator and for our board members. So that event should provide some very positive experience for or exposure for the city of Pearsall. I no doubt we'll have all the TV crews down here and everybody else because she's going to be making a visit down here. So we should get a lot of very positive exposure out of that visit. So as we get a chance to do some of the planning for what we're going to do, we'll get all that information to the council because there'll be numerous events I'm sure that she's going to want to participate in. They're already sending us a bunch of stuff. I've already sent Leah home the homework. She's already been studying stuff. There's a bunch that's going to come out of this. So that will be our official kickoff. Will be May 1st with her here. We talked about the neighborhood center a little bit. The city has received, when I talked about this, the city has received half of the money from the equipment supplies that were lost in the neighborhood center fire, and we've started replacing that necessary equipment. We've already received the new voting booths, and the rest of the voting supplies should be arriving very soon. The parks equipment for the summer rec program, i.e. the game tables and all that stuff, we've already got all that stuff ordered so we can make sure we get it here in time for the summer rec program. And other supplies are being replaced as the need arises. It's almost every day. Every ladder we own was in that building. So I had to send Roger to go get the ladder. I mean, that was our storage building, so everything was over there in that storage building. The splash pad, the first round of components for the splash pad are on their way. There'll be the first bunch will come in, and then the second bunch will be here shortly after. We should have all the components here no later than the middle of March, and there'll be a full construction one. Right now, the anticipated completion date for the splash pad is before May 1st. So just in time for summer vacation, the splash pad will be here and it'll be ready to go. Potential Cherry Street improvement project. This is kind of an interesting thing to talk about here tonight. As you know, at the last council meeting, we talked about that we just finished the street utility improvements and we voted to do some additional projects. We received a bunch of comments right after that. Oh, well, we didn't receive. There was numerous comments posted on social media about a local business that was causing damage to the new pavement on Cherry Street. So staff members met with the management of Petroleum Measurement. That's the big building that's right there on Cherry. If you go to Dr. Is and turn left, it's a big building there on the left. We met with the management of Petroleum Measurement to look at the issue and see if we could find a resolution. The water on the street wasn't caused by overwatering. What it was caused by was an individual either driving or parking on the right of way, and they were breaking the sprinkler heads that Petroleum Measurement had out there to irrigate the right of way. So when the irrigation system came on at 5 in the morning, no sprinkler head of water was just going everywhere, so it flooded the street. They promised us that they were going to get that issue resolved, but their concern was people can still drive on the right of way, people can still park over here, and so what's going to happen again? So we had a pretty lengthy conversation with the manager over there, and we talked about what we could do, what they could do, and we may have a really good solution for what's going to happen over there. So right now we're working on this. This is still at the beginning stages of this. He started asking about, we started talking about curb and gutter. If we could get a high curb over there, maybe we could keep people from driving over it. Any water that comes off that property, because it's all concrete, would hit the street and run down to the drainage and get out of there. So we started talking about some of that stuff, and I told him, we've got a machine to build it, but we don't have the resources to build it. He said, we do. So right now we're working on a public-private partnership with them, wherein we're going to offer to provide our curb and gutter machine and our hands to build the curb and gutter, and they're going to offer to pay for the curb and gutter along that property on that street, along with some other improvements in there. So if we get it done, it's going to be budget neutral for the city. It's just going to be using our equipment that we already have, but we will get a big portion of that street improved with good improvements. One of the other things we're talking about there is even after we do the curb and gutter, potentially building a high wall through there, retaining wall, so they can't get up into where their sprinkler system is at. We have one issue with the fire hydrant there. There's not a lot of room to do the retaining wall. So we're kind of looking at other ways we can get around that. But he was very open to discussing them putting some money into the street there to improve the way their business looked, to improve their
curb appeal.
Well, to improve their relationship with their neighbors. So we're going to continue to work on that. I did do a follow-up email to him and say, look, we met, here's what we talked about. He said, yeah, I agree, and I've already talked to our headquarters, and they're on board. And in that process, he also volunteered to be a member of the Main Street Committee, but then he said his wife wanted her to apply. who's the other manager at the property. So they want to be involved in that. They had some comments about wanting to see Main Street revitalized and their company participating in that. So I think this would be maybe the start of a very good relationship with that company. The Civic Center, the Convention and Civic Center, the renovation project at the Convention and Civic Center is underway. Contractors on site and the demolition has already begun. The proposed project, because I know you guys may see, if you look at the contract, I just want to point this out. Proposed project has a 180-day timeline, which makes it finish July 31st, and I told them, no, wait, it has to be finished before July 1st, so we have it for the 4th of July. I don't think there's going to be a problem with that. They give themselves that extra cushion in there to make sure they have plenty of time. They're actually talking about probably taking 2 to 2.5 months to get it done. So I will have it done way ahead of schedule. But I just want to point that out that right now that contract says July 31st, but they're looking to be done way before that. Street utility projects and current amendments to the street utility project under the 2016 seal bond, which you guys approved at the last meeting, are underway. Hackberry Street's already been completed. Work on Peach Street and Encino is being completed, and Willow Street will begin pretty soon. So we put the rest of the bid out for the gas project, so we can get Willow Street included in there. And so they're working on the pieces. The Willow Street will get started pretty soon. We still have a lot of people complaining about Willow, so we're trying to let them know, hey, Willow's getting done. Council through Willow. That'll be started pretty quick, and then everybody will see this thing. The new city website, work on the new city website is progressing very quickly. They're driving Cleo crazy. Staff members have sat down and worked on creating the original layout design with the contractor, and we're now basically working on the front page layouts and the content that's going to go on it. The project timeline has a new website live right around May 1st of this year, so we're getting down the road and we're getting everything to them on time, so there's no excuses with it not being done by May 1st. Boards and commissions. We had a great turnout this week of people for this meeting and people volunteering to be on boards and commissions, but we still have numerous vacancies on a number of the boards and commissions that need to be filled. So if anyone's interested, they can stop by City Hall and pick up an application. We'll have a proposal on the next council meeting agenda to create the Economic Development Board. So that'll be another one that we'll need to get filled. We still have openings on tourism, parks, library, youth advisory. And of course, we don't have a board of adjusters right now because the city hasn't had one and the city council functions in that spot. That's never really been a concern. But the reality is now, I mean, like tonight, the action that you guys took on that, his recourse from that action is to appeal to the board of adjusters, which basically means he's going to you. There's really not a second board to go to. But that's fine because the ultimate decision is yours anyway. And because we've had enough problems keeping the planning and zoning board full, that's why the board of adjusters hasn't been filled in the past 2. And just a reminder, next Monday's President's Day, so City Hall will be closed. We'll celebrate all the presidents. And now we can go back to item. Now we can go back to item H.
Okay, H, discussion and possible action regarding resolution number 2018-02-01, amending resolution number 2017-11-03, setting date, time, and place for public hearing on the proposed annexation of approximately 254.12 plus or minus acres of land. Authorizing and directing the publication of the notice of such public hearing and directing the city manager or his designee to prepare a service plan for an area the city intends to annex into the city limits. This is an action item. Need to entertain a motion to discuss, please.
Motion to discuss.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Madam Mayor, Council, I'm going to Bobby and let him go through the resolution with you, and then we'll talk about some of the details with it.
Thank you. Mayor and Council, thank you so much. First of all, let me apologize to everyone in the room for being late. I tried to get here as quickly as I could. As you know, the last time we were here, we were going over a very different map that had a larger number of acres and encompassed a whole lot more property. So I guess the first thing we really have to discuss, and I'll be happy to defer to think on this, is whether you're familiar with the map, whether you're okay with reducing the scope of this initial annexation, because that's going to dictate how we move forward from this point. And that is simply, are you okay with the new map and whether you have enough information as to why we reduce the scope of the proposed annexation? Now, I'll be happy to answer any questions and, of course, defer to King on that.
Can you explain what you're talking about?
So the original map that we showed in the first quote-unquote workshop that we had basically showed an annexation that extended all the way out to almost the end of Oak Street and included some property on the other side of power plant as well. When we went back and started reviewing, when Bobby went back and reviewed the law and we started looking at some of this stuff, there is a requirement that says that you cannot annex outside your ETJ. The ETJ extends 1 mile past the city limits. So some of the property we had in the original annexation was actually outside of the ETJ. So basically this map cuts us back down to our ETJ boundary and the properties inside of the ETJ boundary. There's a couple other requirements we talked about. One, because we have not had an annexation in 3 years, we're allowed to annex up to 30% of our city size as it is, which is a little over 11,000 acres is what we could actually annex. This annexation is 254.12 in that direction on Oak Street that gets out to the ETJ boundary and stops at the ETJ boundary. Once that annexation is completed, if you choose to move forward, once that annexation is completed, after 30 days of that ordinance being posted and done, then your ETJ boundary extends another mile, and then we can annex into that additional mile. So rather than doing it all at once, we're looking at maybe a 2-step or a 3-step annexation to get the acreage, because that's all we can do with the ETJ requirement.
We wanted, the last map that we had didn't have as clear of a depiction of our ETJ as we could be able to determine when we looked at the map. So we asked Robert to go back and take a look at the map and get it in such a scale that we could read it. And then that's when we did determine that there were some tracks that were outside of the 1 mile ETJ that Robert calculated. And then we just went back to the drawing board to make it smaller in scope, to do it in phases, and also to make the map look a lot cleaner.
And while you guys are looking at that, I want to point out a couple of things, some of the things that we did just for the sake of making sure that it was clear for everybody to understand. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the GIS software, when you put a picture underneath the GIS software, sometimes everything doesn't line up just perfect. And these shape files that come from the appraisal district or that come from someplace else, sometimes they don't line up perfect. But I want to point out this line right here, which is this boundary, which would be the west boundary of the annexation. That line looks like it's below power plant. It's actually not. That's where the CAD line shows power plant is to be right here. So that line is actually just north or just east of power plant. So power plant would not be annexed. Nothing on power plant would be annexed. And when we got into this area up here, we had followed, originally we tried to follow property boundaries, but because of the final ordinance, we have to have meets and bounds that goes with the ordinance. Robert asked if we would look at considering following existing road lines, because it would make it a whole lot less, that ordinance goes from, it cuts down a lot of pages when we have to have all these corners. You just follow the right-of-way lines in the ordinance. So where it comes over here on Fields Road, that line stays on this side of Fields Road, so we're not taking in Fields Road. It comes across here, so we will be taking in a portion of this road. That's Airport, Xavier? Yes, sir. In the middle. So we'll be taking in a portion of Airport because that's the only way we can get the line across the road. And then it comes up here and it stays on the east side of Oak as well. Now, as we've discussed, we take in a big portion of Oak right there. Oak is a TxDOT road. Maintenance does not come to us. TxDOT continues the maintenance, just like Oak is here in town right now and like Kamal is in town. So we will be picking up a small portion of Airport that will become city maintenance, but it's a small portion of Airport with that proposal.
You mentioned, did you say 11,000 acres could be annexed?
1,100. 30% of 5.275 miles.
Square miles.
Square miles.
And the second phase would be how much we could?
Once we get this done, we'll look at that and determine which direction would be best to go.
Gotcha.
The original proposal had the power plant in it. The second proposal obviously would probably include the power plant. And that's a big chunk of acres by itself.
Okay.
That was a big chunk of the original Oklahoma power line.
So this one doesn't.
This one does it because it's outside the ETJ. Actually, it's not outside the ETJ. If you look on your map, there's a circle, that dash circle.
It's in the yard.
That's the ETJ boundary.
Yeah.
So you see it goes kind of right through the property,
Yeah.
but the facilities themselves will be outside. So rather than taking this portion inside the deal, it'd be easier to wait and then grab the property according to their boundaries. It's easier to ride up that way. And if we start the process tonight with the resolution, we get done with the first and then plenty of time to do a phase 2, and actually probably even time to do a phase 3 by the time you're done.
So what we would need to do tonight, if you're inclined, is if you're okay with the map, that's the starting point, because that's going to then translate into defining who the specific property owners are. And I know we have the original list. So it would be taking the map that you approved, finding out exactly who owns all those parcels and identifying them, of course, by owner name, mailing address, and personal district ID number. And then we would send out notices as required by statute to all property owners and public entities, to include the school district, the county, any special districts, any provider of emergency services, fire services, so on and so forth. But we would send out notices to everybody potentially affected by the annexation. We cannot have a public hearing until the notices go out and at least 30 days notice is provided. Okay? So that's why we need for you to okay the map if you're okay with it. So we can then identify the property owners, send out notices to all of the affected parties, and then ask you tonight, if you desire to move forward, to choose the dates of the public hearings, keeping in mind that we have to wait at least 30 days until the notices go out for the first public hearing. So we want a buffer, but the buffer is provided because I'm assuming we can't get into this week's paper. So that being the case, we get into next week's paper. The official publication date is Thursday. So we have between now and prior to Thursday to send out those notices. The notices that go out to the property owners, we don't have to send out by certified mail. The public entities will do. But if we get all the notices out by week's end, we can publish the notice of public hearing in next week's paper. We can publish the notice for both public hearings in the paper in the same notice. And I'd like to keep them running because we have to have the public hearings no sooner than 30 days. But we can have them at any time so long as it's after 10 days when it comes out in the paper and before 20 days after it comes out in the paper. So we have that window. Not before 10 days after the public notice, and that is notice in the paper, and not later than 20 days. So you decide when the public hearings will occur. Now, the statute requires 2 public hearings, but it doesn't provide any time period that must elapse between the public hearings. In fact, Scott Houston says in his article, you can have both public hearings on the same day. It's perfectly legal. All we're asking is that if the notices go out end of week, early next week, the newspaper ad comes out next Thursday, and then we've got to wait at least until the 30-day period is up, and we can't go past 20. So the notices can come out, and if we have them published every week for 2-3 weeks, we're going to fall well within the time period. You tell us which days you want to have the public hearing. The last public hearing that I want to count forward about 3 weeks, allowing time to post 3 days posting, and then have a meeting. We can adopt the ordinance 3 weeks after the last notice, the last public hearing.
And then after adoption, it's 30 days before it's effective, right?
Yeah, what I'd like to do is, depending on the number of readings that you require one reading a day. One?
Ordinances? Ordinances is 2. Postings?
Readings.
Oh, no readings,
Oh.
postings.
Oh.
No one.
Okay. So then we just wait until after it becomes effective, then we start with the next annexation.
Start with the next one.
Pardon?
Start with this. Phase 2.
Start with phase 2 if you'd like to move down that road.
Okay. So tonight we need to set a date for.
If you're okay with the map.
I have a quick question.
Okay.
Quick question, and not necessarily this map, but the city limit map in general. Is everything that's in city limits now contiguous and means everything already annexed?
We have nothing on line.
Nothing outlined?
No, it's a square, everything's contained inside one line. We own property outside of the city limits, but it's not inside the city. So for instance, the Civic Center is outside the city limits, but we own the Civic Center. The property on the other side of the power plant is outside the city limits, but we own it.
Because I think in one of the maps that I saw, it's like little squigglies going around certain neighborhoods and stuff.
It's out there, Porter Avenue is one of those, where subdivision was taken in, it was just a big portion of that area, the line goes down. But it's all still, there's no break, you can't have a break in your city limits, so you can't have portions that are detached where there's ownership of another entity or governorship of another entity. Everything is attached to one piece. Is that what you're asking?
Well, I'm wondering if we're providing services for everyone within that area, and are they all part of the city, they pay city taxes?
And see, this area here, we have a lot of city services in this proposed annexation area already. There's gas all the way out to Pearsall, there's water out there, most of the water's out there. In this area, it's gas is definitely provided, water about halfway down. So as far as services go in this area, as far as utilities go in this area, city provided utilities, we're providing most of that already. But they're not paying city taxes because they're not city limits. They are paying a higher rate for water. We charge a higher rate for gas. Yeah, gas, they pay that outside the city limits fee, but we're already providing. What we aren't providing is police protection. We're already providing fire protection out there. We're not providing police protection out there, so that would be something that will change. Those people can already use the library, so I mean, that doesn't really change. So there's not a lot that we provide that they don't have access to. And the majority of those properties are businesses. Our fee homes are the majority of businesses. That's why we're looking at that area.
So everything within the city limits is already part of the city, annexed?
Yes.
Even those little neighborhoods that were excluded at one time?
Yes.
There's some neighborhoods, like Lopez Street, that's not part of the city, though.
It's part of the city? Yes. Yeah, it is.
It isn't?
It wasn't at one point.
It wasn't at one point, I remember that.
But it is now.
It is now.
As far as the map, the map looks fine, but looking at this list, what is our cost? Like the big ticket items, water, sanitary, I'm sure it's just real easy because we just pay more for service and pick up the trash. But sewer system, the big ticket items would be sewer system, wastewater, water service, perhaps some street lighting would be at our expense. So what's the estimated cost of what we need to provide versus revenue, and then how long do we have to put that in?
Okay, so first, the service, part of this resolution is asking for, would designate, provide the service plan. We looked at a service plan in that first workshop. Service plan is going to be about the same. I think Bobby did have a chance to ask about, because one of the things we talked about, the cost of wastewater is a big cost. The rest of it's not that much. It's adding in, when we looked at going all the way out Oak, what Robert had said was that we were probably going to have to put 2 lift stations out there to push the wastewater back to town. Those lift stations are about $250,000 each. So that was the big ticket item. If we went all the way out to the end of Oak, which now we're not really talking about going all the way out to the end of Oak. However, I think Bobby got some guidance from TML that, we've had some citizens at that meeting and they basically said we didn't want wastewater service. And I think we got some guidance now that says if they want to opt out, we can let them opt out.
people.
Most cities are really allowing people to do what they like, because not only does that keep people happy in the newly annexed area, it also keeps the cost down for the city. But to answer your question, I can't really address the cost. I know Tink and the staff can do that. The time period is, the service plan would have to be ready by the time of our first public hearing, so about a month out, and it's essentially ready. But it provides, as we've discussed before, 2.5 years to construct the improvements. Outside is 4.5 years to make substantial progress towards. And then if we can't do it within 4.5 years, then people can request this annexation.
So one of the things we would talk about in that meeting would be to go over the service plan, what services we would provide, what the potential cost of those services would be, and then also look at the potential revenue. And we'd say, okay, so the potential revenue is this much, the cost are this much, then that's where you make your decision. But until we get the resolution to start us down that road, then we're not really there.
Sure.
But Bobby finding out that making wastewater would be optional, I mean, that was the huge cost. I think when we looked at the whole thing before, the total cost, 2.4 million, I think, to do everything, and wastewater was 1.6 million of that. I mean, so it's the big ticket item. And they all have septic tanks already, obviously.
So the 2.5 years and 4 years, what was that time? We had 2.5 years to start.
But you have to have substantial progress within 4.5 years. I mean, that's just provided in the statute.
So it's kind of an oxymoron. Give you 2.5 years to do it, but they give you 4.5 years to make substantial progress.
Right, and substantial progress, and it's even, you'll find it in case law, it's a term of art. And how do you define substantial progress? But typically, the annexation area doesn't provide a whole bunch of litigation, or at least hasn't so far. It might change with Sentinel 6 that was passed last year with respect to the larger cities, but usually annexations just get carried out, and then the cities deal with it as time moves forward.
And the clawback agreement is, you kind of mentioned that, if it doesn't happen, the citizens have the right to de-annex.
And it wouldn't be an agreement or a clawback, but in effect it's the same thing, which is the statute provides that if you don't provide the services that are required under the statute, then there are avenues to request for this annexation.
On a case-by-case or the whole?
It would be essentially on a case-by-case basis, but then it typically, when it happens on a much grander scale. So let's use today as an example, and keep in mind, you always have the prerogative to change your mind, but if you tell us, look, the map's okay, then you've got to provide notice to everybody who's affected, including the public entities, come up with a service plan before that first hearing, because you're going to need it. You can ask us to come up with whatever other information you need. We need to know when you want to do the public hearings. But the annexation ordinance doesn't occur until the end, and this isn't official until you decide to adopt the ordinance. We'd also be directed to come up with the meets and bounds description, to compute the total land area, the area affected by the annexation. So a lot of questions that need to be resolved moving forward. But this would be the starting point. We can't do anything without you saying, move forward, or just, we don't want you to move forward.
So we're just setting the time, date, and place.
Pardon me?
We're just setting the time, date, and place for the meetings, correct?
Yes.
And the map. We got to approve.
Yeah. That was the question you asked.
Why that's important is because we are doing a 1-year tract annexation, and it provides us with a time limit. And we're trying to get it done within 90 days from start to finish. So that's why it's so important to set those times and dates and locations now. Because what I'd like to do, honestly, is when you send out the public notices, you want to tell everyone, look, your property is being considered for annexation by the city of Pearsall. We are going to have the 2 required public hearings. They are going to be on this date, at this time, at this location. and we certainly do invite you to attend. So that's why we want the dates and times now. So when the letters go out, if they go out, the recipients will know right there and then when they can come and provide as much community input as they'd like. We would also like to be able to tell them when you would consider that ordinance for final adoption. That would be the final piece if you want to go that route. You can always change your mind, because unless you decide to move forward at the end, it doesn't happen. But to have those dates available in the letter would be really important. Put it up on the website and to keep it there, and to advertise it in the local newspaper, and to keep that there as well as everything that moves forward.
Dr. Tink, have you kind of looked at some dates, have some recommendations?
No, because
It would have to be March.
Thursdays seem to be the days when we can do everything, so.
Well,
One thing I would say on this is, you know, you see a lot of cities that do this, and they do the 2 public hearings on the same day. I would recommend not to do that.
Yeah.
I think we need 2 different nights, so if somebody can't make it one, they can make it another night. You know, it's going to extend it 1 week, that's it. Unless we do a Tuesday, Thursday on the week when we don't have a council meeting, we could do both of them the same week, but I would definitely recommend we do 2 separate hearings.
Well, what?
22nd and 29th of March.
Okay.
So,
You know, I won't be here on the 29th.
I have a quick question on that.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Quick question on that. I'm trying to read this, but west of power plant or east of power plant?
I'm sorry?
Is all of this west of power plant road or east of power plant road?
East of power plant.
East of power plant.
Between power plant, everything between power plant and Oak, and then properties on the other side of Oak. So if you drive down Oak, it'll be everything on both sides. There'll be some properties that don't have front facing on the east side, because we follow the roads to make it easier to determine. Makes it easier on our officers too. I mean, that's
So west of power plant, nothing.
nothing yet.
Is that gonna be the second phase?
If the council chooses to do a second phase, including to look at taking it to the power plant, we have to go west of the power plant. They're west of the power plant.
Where's the city limit line on power plant going?
Guadalupe Street.
Solid line. It's a solid line.
So it's setting the dates. Remember, we need 30 days from the time the notices go out. So we're ready to send the notices out once we get the list
Which would,
of people.
it's the 13th. So 30 days would be, I mean,
We're looking at 30 days from next Thursday, correct?
Well,
Right.
next Thursday, if you want, because what Crystal and I will do, when you choose the public hearing dates, then they will go in the paper to correspond with the dates you choose, keeping in mind that the first public hearing will be 30 days out from when the notices go out. So I need a few days buffer on that, because I still need the final list. I have the original list of 70+ names. I need the final list since the map has changed, and we're ready to go as soon as we get the list. And they can go out tomorrow, they can go out, you know what day today is.
so the 22nd of March would be 30 days from next Thursday.
Well, absolutely. If that's a good day, that's going to work out beautifully for the first public hearing date, because Crystal and I will then work out the public notices in the paper, because we've got that a 10-day, 20-day thing to figure out.
22nd, 29th?
This February,
Would it be?
24th.
Would be the 24th?
Yeah.
The 24th?
Yeah.
Oh, that's February, that's right. So can we do the 27th, 27th and 29th? Tuesday and Thursday? 27th and 29th because of February not having.
Of March.
Of March.
And they don't conflict with the dates we started last time?
No.
No.
You decide how you want to space the public hearings, whether you want to have 2 in 1 week or space them
2 in
by
1 week.
Okay?
27th, 29th.
Okay, then if you do that, then you just give me at least, I need at least 24 days, 25 days after the second public hearing, you can schedule whether it's a regular meeting or special meeting for consideration of the ordinance.
Do it as a special, because we don't want to wait, because that would put us in the middle of April.
So 27 and 29th is what we have now.
And what
Same
date
week.
in the middle of April? Like?
That
Of
would
March.
put us in the middle of April. Would be when his 24-day period would be over, which if we waited till the May meeting, then it wouldn't be effective till June. Then July, August, until we still have to, we still have time for phase 2 if we do phase 2.
So we don't need to set a special meeting for
Well,
that?
we could do it at a regular. We could do it, we could
Regular
adopt
day
ordinance at the
meeting.
regular in May. Right?
Or the regular?
Should be able to, especially given the, when you're contemplating the public hearings, I think the regular meeting May would be fine.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
So what days?
we're ready. I'll make a motion that we have public hearings as posted on the 27th and the 29th of March.
Mhm.
And then our meeting to follow 24 days after that will be the next regular meeting that complies with that date limit. And that we accept that now.
And adopt the resolution.
Adopt the resolution as well.
With the dates and times and locations.
The time being 7 o'clock at the library or here?
Here,
Here, 7 o'clock.
resolution number
Resolution number such and such.
2018-02-02.
To approve.
To approve?
To approve. Congratulations.
Second.
That was easy. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Thank you. Counselor, thank you. Alrighty, we're down to add items on the agenda.
We're on number 12.
Review the bills. Where's my last sheet? Who took my sheet? Okay, review the bills. Bills reviewed.
Any questions?
Any questions on the bills? General announcements? Did we do that? Or we just? Okay. Item 14, City Council inquiries for staff or any other future agendas.
I would like an update on South Moreno Street.
Let's start with that one. Can we go back to Thursday?
Yes, general announcement.
I have a general announcement. The surveyors from LNV were here last Wednesday, and they shot some grades and stuff over there on South Moreno Street and a few other areas, and they're putting their report and stuff together. So the next council meeting, we should have some information for you so we can talk about that.
Okay.
That's all I have for announcements.
Anything you guys want on the agenda? Update on codification. I'm just kidding. Okay, anything else? Motion to.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll come back in here.